Greetings, Commanders, and welcome to episode 86 of Lave Radio, the show that talks about the universe of Elite and the fantastic community that surrounds it. I'm your host, Colin Phoenix to Fire Ford, and joining me in the orange sidewinder for this episode is Commander Ben Moss Woodward, Head of Health and Safety.
You wouldn't believe it, would you? But you're sounding very enthusiastic this evening, Colin. Have you been on the Pro Plus or something?
I have beer.
I'm jealous.
And also joining us is Head of Station Entertainment, Mr. Chris Jarvis.
Hello! You wouldn't believe I was streaming stuff for 12 hours on Sunday, and having come back to it, I still have absolutely no idea which windows I need open or what I'm doing. So bear with me on the tech this evening. You've probably still got a logo up on Twitch that says stream begins shortly, haven't you? Let me take that off. There we go.
That's what we want. Nice and professional, nice and smooth. And joining us tonight, Station Commander himself. Everyone stand up and salute. Station Commander Alan Stroud.
/salute.
Hi folks, hopefully no one poked themselves in the eye then, did they? No? Okay, good.
I'm afraid.
No injuries for Ben to deal with. Great.
Right, if you wish, you can join us live. We're hanging out at Lave Station. Well, actually, are we hanging out in Lave Station? I don't think anybody's headed that way
at
yet.
Lave Station in Open. I'm there. I'm here with Commander Dissington as we speak.
Excellent. So we are hanging out outside Lave Station. You can join us in the private group Fuzzer, where you should see us, and in the IRC
we're in Open.
chat.
We're in Open, not in Fuzzer.
Okay,
we're in Open, we're not in Fuzzer.
And in the IRC chat, hashtag Lave Radio on QuakeNet, and you can access that through the Lave Radio page. You can tweet us at Lave Radio through the show, and we'll try and answer any questions as we go through. So, we'll come to Mr. Jarvis last, because I think you've had an awful lot to talk about. But, Alan, since you've not been on for a while, what have you been up to lately?
Kind of don't think I've stopped really. I've not been very well for a couple of weeks, which hasn't helped stuff. The main thing at the moment, I mean, we did. Karen and I went to FantasyCon a couple of weeks ago, and subsequently from that, I'm now the editor of the British Fantasy Society Journal, which is a non-fiction publication. So we're doing sort of critical essays and stuff on fantasy, which I'm currently in the middle of pulling together issue 15. And Karen's now their national events coordinator, so she's putting together some social events over the year. So really looking forward to being able to get a couple of the British Fantasy Society social events in London sorted out, that maybe we can cross-pollinate a little bit. So a few British Fantasy Society members go and take a look and go, what is this Elite Dangerous thing? And a few Elite Dangerous people go, what is this British Fantasy Society thing? Which would be really nice, to kind of see. We've also had Chaos Reborn launch, which was great, and my fiction's in that, which was lovely. It was really cool to to get that off the ground and get that all sort of moving forwards, which is brilliant. And just teaching people really, a lot of teaching. I had Gavin Smith, one half of Gavin Diaz, author of Elite Dangerous novel Elite Wanted, came in and taught a masterclass to my students last week, which was really good.
I must admit that the Wanted book surprised me, because I thought it was just going to be a straightforward hunter-prey, but it had a nice little twist in it, that one.
Yeah, it's heat in space.
Mm.
I mean, that is how they pitched it, and kind of that is, it's heat in space.
Okay, Mr. Moss Woodward, what have you been up to?
I've been flying a wingman for a Mr. Jarvis. I've also been doing various community goals. I'm not entirely sure what's going to come of this, but apparently we were celebrating the 5th of November with the Guy Fawkes things and giving some innocent people just wanting to make fireworks, some explosives, and nothing at all to do with any conferences or things like that that are coming up near Seoul in the near future. I'm sure of it. You know, they're obviously it's only about fireworks.
Yes, you're not
And
wanting
also I've been
anything to
helping.
go. You don't want anything to go boom in any way, then.
Oh, only in an enthusiastic and exciting boom, like fireworks. And I've also been helping the Imperials out a little bit with the destroy the Kawatomi Syndicate thing. Although that's not doing so well, actually. It's only on stage 3, and we've only got a couple of days left, which for a pew-pew community goal doesn't seem to be doing that great, because they usually vanish.
Yeah, they normally
have to do a
vanish
bit
within
more of that, I
48
think.
hours, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of doing that one
Um,
myself at some point, but I've got to get the time to do it.
Well, you've only got 1 day and 19 hours left.
Well, it all depends on what we will discuss later tonight, I think. So,
Yeah.
Mr. Jarvis, now, let's be honest here. You've been quite busy. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so on Sunday we did the. Sorry, people watching me on Twitch are just seeing me trying to move Lave Radio logos around. Yeah, Sunday we did the 12-hour celebration and fundraiser for Escape Velocity, which was absolutely fantastic. And thank you to absolutely everybody who joined us for that stream, for people who tweeted about it, and for people who backed Escape Velocity that day. Really exciting. You guys, the whole Elite community, really massively exceeded my expectations for where we would get to on that stream. I started off thinking that we would hopefully get some people on board, over the course of the 12-hour stream, and I was thinking that we'd maybe get to sort of maybe 50%. I was hoping sort of 75% of the way funded to the first milestone, and the first milestone was to have enough of a budget that I could really feel that Escape Velocity could come back. I think we hit the first tier after about half an hour. And by about, I can't remember exactly when it was, but by about 4 o'clock, which was sort of 4 hours into the stream, I was having to think up new milestone tiers to add, because you guys were just absolutely smashing through them, which was just completely overwhelming for me. I mean, the Chaos Reborn Kickstarter, which I have to say, tinyurl.com/chaos audio. The Chaos Reborn Kickstarter went really well, and obviously, we got funded for episode 1 after 8 days. We're still looking to hit those stretch goals and get those up. So if you haven't backed the Chaos Reborn stuff, I'll talk about that again a bit later, but please do that. But yeah, just completely blew me away. So what we need to look at, people have made some comments about what they're now expecting to see, obviously, as a result of that. There are things I need to point out about how Patreon works. It is different to Kickstarter. The amount that people have pledged is theoretically an amount per episode. And there are definitely some pledges in there that I'm expecting to disappear after episode 1. Part of me sincerely hopes they disappear, because there's $50 and $100 pledge tiers in there that have been taken, and I am really not expecting people to pledge to support Escape Velocity at like $100 per episode. Those tiers really are designed as like one-offs, so the idea is that someone would back those as like a kind of one-off thing, and then kind of back down to a more sensible supporting level. So we have edged over the top tier, which is the amount for kind of original artwork, and hopefully with that amount that's there, I should be able to commission some new art. But obviously people are sort of saying, oh great, does that mean we're going to get like a new piece of artwork for every episode? Yes, but obviously only if we stay up at that funding level. So if we have that initial funding level for episode 1, and then when those big pledge tiers disappear, we drop back down, you may find that some of those milestones come and go. I'm prepared for that. I'm not expecting people to be pledging me $100 per episode. But just bear in mind that it's not like Kickstarter. That amount will go up and down, and I'm expecting it to do that, and I won't be unhappy if people are supporting at a level and then drop down a bit. But yeah, there we are. Thank you guys so much. I won't go through it all again, but there is a huge thank you post on Facebook, on Lave Radio, and on my website, radiotheatreworkshop.com. There's a whole load of people who made Sunday absolutely fantastic, not least Zach Antonacci from Frontier, who came onto the stream right at the beginning at 12 o'clock and sat with me and chatted and talked Horizons and Planet Coaster. But yeah, there we are. Thank you all very much. And I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Well, speaking about the funding, Chris.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, sure. It's awesome. You've got £700 at the moment, but
Dollars.
I had a quick look at dollars. Yes, dollars. I did have a quick look at the funding levels of, say, people at what I would consider a more sustainable amount of $13 and less. And even then, this morning you were hovering at about $460 an episode, which I think that's still very respectable, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's
it is
quite doable. I'm assuming.
No. It absolutely is. It absolutely is. It's just not quite that art supporting level. And I do want to make sure that I haven't had a working day yet because I've been looking after my daughter. But we have hit the level for those USB cards, and I do want to introduce support tiers for people that would like USB cards with the series on it. And I think my priority needs to be making sure that those physical rewards that maybe people can sign up for, I need to make sure those are sustainable, so that I don't end up in a situation where actually the budget for the USB cards has disappeared. But yeah, I need to sit down and work out a robust budget, largely because, like I say, people just massively surpassed my expectations. I wasn't expecting to be there so quickly. And I will just say for Twitch, this is where we left the system that you can see there. This is where we left the Escape Velocity tour of locations on Sunday. This is Semi S3, which we have decided is Donaldson from Frontier. This is the planet in the system that is most like Donaldson. So somewhere on that rocky world, I'm hoping to see with Horizons, there should be a starport called Anderton's Camp. Otherwise, I'll be very disappointed. Anyway, sorry. I've taken up enough of your time.
So just to go back to the thing about funding, Chris, just to give a bit of a comparison, I think Tea and Jeopardy, which is the Hugo Award-winning podcast run by Emma Newman, I took a look at their setup, and Emma came to a talk that Kate Russell and I did at Nine Worlds in 2014 on crowdfunding, and we were obviously talking about Kickstarter and Elite, and she spoke about Patreon then. And what was interesting there is she was just sort of setting that up, and obviously, they've then gone on, become very, very successful, and won a Hugo related to the episodes that they do. But the key thing with what they've done is they've fluctuated relating to the funding, and if you look at theirs, they're getting about $520 a month. And they've got a few more backers. They've got 100 or so. So obviously the tiering is a little bit lower. I think the key thing is that this thing about how many episodes you're going to produce, because you've done it per episode. So how frequent those episodes are is probably going to, it's up to you, obviously, how you manage this. But if it was me, I'd probably have a dialogue with the backers and talk to the backers about that. Because then obviously you can negotiate your funding related to, how the content's produced and what sort of, how it's produced in stages and so on and so forth, and what constitutes an episode even, because, a trailer might go first, or you might release a half and then a half. I don't know, there's lots of things. I mean, it depends on what you've worked out. But yeah, I do think certainly Patreon has this very different system to Kickstarter, and of course it is about us kind of finding our way in terms of how that works. And I say our way because, of course, I'm hoping you're going to get me to write some music for you.
Yeah, well, so I have to hear you pitch for it. No, I'm joking. I think
I can hum a tune. Yeah, be all right.
I think that's right. No, I think that's absolutely right, and I think that we do need to look very carefully about how episodes. I know what I would like the release schedule for episodes to be, but in terms of funding, as you say, I was sort of talking to Colin earlier, and I didn't want to do a monthly campaign. And actually, so then there is a possibility that with Patreon, I could be taking money for an episode and then taking money for an episode again twice in a month, because I would like to do fortnightly releases for Escape Velocity. And someone in the Twitch chat has said they would like fortnightly episodes for Escape Velocity. I'd like to find a way of making that work. I don't really want Escape Velocity to be a monthly release. I think that's too long for the kind of momentum of the story that I want to tell. I'll have a think. There might be a way of doing it, because one of the things I was saying on the stream on Sunday is that it would be really helpful for me if I could take one lot of payment up front, because then that's the money to actually make the episode. And as I said, there are certain pledge tiers in the Patreon, which actually it makes sense to do the money in advance, because there's things in there about having like a player group advert. Well, if I take your money up front, then obviously we can do your player group advert, and that can go on the beginning of Series 3, Episode 1. And there are things like, there are pledge tiers, where part of the reward is having your name in the audio credits. Well, if your name's going to be in the audio credits, then we kind of need to just see, we need to validate your reward before those things then go in. So then it becomes a bit more like Kickstarter, whereby we take the money and then use that money to go away and make the series, rather than actually producing an episode up front and then kind of taking the money afterwards. And what it would mean is that producing the series, after that, we could potentially always be one episode in hand. So we take some money up front to make episode 1, then when episode 1's released, we take the money to make episode 2, and it kind of then leapfrogs like that. And it would give us a certain amount of protection for the production of the series, that if it goes the way of Heroes, I'm saying this is a terrible thing to say, but if if for some reason Escape Velocity got to the point where people just didn't love it anymore and stopped supporting it, then it would give us a way of kind of always knowing, what support is there to continue making the series. I kind of say that a bit tongue in cheek. I'm hoping Escape Velocity is going to be excellent and continue to be excellent.
But I think the important thing is obviously that conversation. Probably good to have a conversation with your backers related to that.
Yeah.
And and that's just with these crowdsource funding things, it is always a good idea that you're chatting to your backers when you've got the opportunity to chat to your backers about how things work. And communication has always been no matter which crowdfunding model you use, communication's always the one that the thing that people value, particularly if if something's not quite going the way you want it to go, and so on and so forth. As long as you're talking to people, I think they value it.
Okay, well, I'll just interrupt that. I think it's time to move on to our main section today. Now, as per usual, Frontier have basically dropped a bombshell. So half an hour before this show started, Zach and Sandy were on the live YouTube showing
Ed.
1 point. Well, okay, Zach and Ed.
No,
they're
Ed
on
and
the line.
Sandy.
Okay. Is he finished yet?
I'll finish when you get it right.
Do you want me to do this, Colin? Are you all right?
No, I am fine. Thank you very much for asking.
Can you get the names right then, please?
No, I think I'll start getting them all wrong in the first place now. Ed and Sandy did a live stream showing the new ships coming in 1.5. So we've had half an hour to digest the new stats, the new ships, and let's just kick it off. Ben, you were with me all the way through this. What did you think to all the different ships then? Excited?
All of them. Oh, wow. Right.
Just
Asp
give
I love,
me
Cobra I love, Viper I love, Keelback I love, Fed Corvette I love, Imperial Cutter looks like a dildo.
Right. Okay. Nice. Just a general impression of the quality of the ships that you saw. I mean, did you think that they were up to the usual standard?
I mean, we're seeing a lot more of what Frontier's been doing of late, where we're getting evolutions of ship designs rather than new ship designs.
Yeah.
But I think, I really did like the look of the Asp Scout. The Cobra Mark IV, it's kind of closer to the...
Would you guys like me to play the Frontier videos over the Twitch while we're talking about each ship? So if you take them in order, I can give people a point of reference.
Okay, play them. Just play them in a loop or something if you can.
Yeah.
No, I can't do
what I was going to do
Sorry,
is I was
that's
just going
technical.
to take everyone through general impressions of the ships, and then we'll all go into detail into each individual ship. So basically, Ben, your impression of the ships were good.
I like them all. I think they're all nice. I'm not convinced which of them I'll actually buy in the main game, but they all seem to have a place, and that's a good thing.
Okay, Alan, what was your impression?
Yeah, they were all very good. It was nice to see more of the Asp and to see a variant. I think it's tricky for me in that I kind of look at this as the ships don't interest me as much in terms of that reveal, and I recognise that the ships and the collectibles were the two things that that were the main focuses. But I was probably paying a bit more attention to very specific answers that Sandy gave relating to content that was to come, and some of the very insightful questions that the backers and other listeners gave. I think specifically, one thing I would say just as a general point, and this is my general observation of the whole stream, if you make a comparison between it and the CitizenCon stream at prior to or during the Manchester CitizenCon, there was a lot of conversation at times about Star Citizen being very open development, and actually you got the sense from exactly how Ed pitched the questions to Sandy that this is a very different kind of open development in that it feels much more honest, in that the questions were less pre-prepared. He had a list that voted, but they were less pre-prepared, and he gave the caveat that, if you don't want to answer this, don't answer it. Or if you can't answer it, just say you can't answer it. Which is that's a stage further in terms of open development than the way in which sometimes Star Citizen's lauded for being open development by certain people. There's just no comparison in that regard, because obviously there is a way of presenting where we are and the honest information, but at the same time you're presenting the information you want to present. But there's a way of being a little bit more off the cuff. I really, really thought Ed did a fantastic job.
Yeah, I must admit, Ed has been doing a fantastic job with his streams lately. I especially think that the Q&A, which we'll come on to with David Braben last week, was especially good. But Chris, what was your opinion?
Don't confuse me, I'm playing videos.
Well, you better look at them up close then.
Yeah, I'm going to go back. So apologies for the people on Twitch. I'm going to go back through these in order. So we've got the Imperial Cutter. Imperial Cutter looks, I don't think there's a... Sorry, it's going to sound really negative. I don't think there's a lot of surprises with the Imperial Cutter. I think for everyone who's seen the sort of design aesthetic of the Imperial Cutter, it sort of looks a little bit like everyone would be expecting the Imperial Cutter to look. People in Twitch are saying that the Imperial Cutter is very reminiscent of the White Star from Babylon 5. I don't think that's an unfair comparison. I think it's a beastly-looking, very modernist, very high-tech looking ship. I mean, if there were any ships in Elite Dangerous that looked like they were built with alien tech, the Imperial ones definitely do. And I think it's a thing of beauty. I would probably, if I got one of those, I would probably end up calling it like the Heart of Gold or something like that. What do you reckon?
Well, let's all focus on each of the individual ships now, I think. Okay. Shall we have a look at the Asp Scout?
Okay, you want to have a look at the Asp Scout? I can do that. So yes. I'm just, in order to play these videos, I'm just having to just sort of share a desktop here. So apologies, you'll be getting pop-ups from Skype. You'll be getting all kinds of Windows notifications. Yeah, Asp Scout. Do you know what occurred to me about it? Because it looks kind of small and kind of compact down from the obviously Asp Explorer. Yeah. I'm not sure if it's the lighting, but it looks a bit like I think it's just a shadow. Because the way it's lit, it looks like it's only the top half of an Asp. It looks like someone's just sliced the bottom off it. But I think there is... let's just replay that. I think there is more to it than that. But it's a nice ship. I've not really been up close and personal with an Asp in a while. I like how kind of much the cockpit protrudes out the front of the ship, but I think that's a
Yes.
signature design for the Asp. It seems to have a couple of little extra wing foils on the side of the ship. I'm not sure if those will help with atmospheric landing down the line, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, just to go over the basic statistics on this one, we know that it's thinner than the standard ASP, stripped down, lighter, more affordable. Still has a massive or a great jump range, but less guns. We've only got 2 medium and 2 small instead of 2 medium and 4 small. More manoeuvrable, and we do know it's cheaper than the Asp Explorer. Somewhere beyond a Cobra, but less than, say, a Diamondback. Well, we don't even know that yet, but we know it's more expensive than a Cobra. So, I mean, Ben, what would you be doing this one with?
What would I be doing this one with? Do you mean
Yes.
what would I be doing with this?
That could be that. as well.
That could be that as well.
Who would you be doing with this one?
Yeah, if oh no, I'm not going to go there.
Yes, don't.
Yeah. I guess even if I was starting exploring, then I'd be very interested in both this one or the Diamondback Scout. I'd have to know more about them. I really do love my Asp. Yeah, I think the Asp Explorer is a great ship, and I've held on to mine purely because it is such a beast. Now, obviously, the Scout isn't going to be that, but maybe it could be a nice long-range fighter as well as an explorer.
Well, if
Maybe.
it is more manoeuvrable than the Asp itself, I mean, the Asp can hold its own against a Cobra. So, if
Exactly.
it's more manoeuvrable, it certainly looks as if it will be a better, maybe
And
even better fighter than a Cobra.
It's the same guns as a Cobra as well. 2 medium, 2 small.
We've yet to see where they actually protrude from. I'm assuming that there's under the cockpit and kind of shoulder cannons, if you see what I mean.
Maybe, but we don't know. I think we did see some just either side of the cockpit, didn't we?
Yeah, because that's
Yeah,
remember
I'm just
video
winding this
correctly.
video. In fact, actually, now I've stopped the video, you can see that it says hard point on the hull. I don't know if that's. Do you know what? I don't know if that's like a development thing, and that maybe that's not meant to be.
No,
there.
it's not. Our current ship, our current skins have that as well.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's cool.
If you look at
See,
a lot of the
yeah,
skins, they've got all this kind of thing.
yeah. So you can see there's at least one here that's to the right of the cockpit and just slightly behind, and then there's, if I just play it forward a little bit, there's a matching one on the other side. So that's at least 2.
Yeah, in the standard Asp, those would be the medium hard points.
Those are medium,
So,
aren't they?
well, they are in the standard, and underneath the cockpit there would be 2 small, I suppose.
Yeah. They're about 50% bigger than the pilot. So I don't know if that's like a point of reference. Can we see any others around as it's rotating? Is there something?
No, if it was in the if it was anything like the proper Explorer, the guns the other are chin mounted, if you see what I mean. So they'd be under the cockpit.
Yeah. I certainly can't see anything immediate, but it's very much lit from the top. So there could be, that might be deliberate. There could be some surprises under there. Maybe there's one like massive hard point under the Asp. So yeah.
Yeah. Alan, any opinions?
I like the ship. I do like the Asp in any variant. I am a little concerned that we are seeing a lot of variants in our complement. It would be nice to see more original new designs. I think this is pretty. I think it's perhaps a little bit more utilitarian. In terms of my own gameplay, yeah, I'm flying a Cobra still, so a lot of these things are out of my price range. I did look at a Diamondback for a little bit. The Scout might make the Asp an affordable jump for me for a little while, but that's kind of not really my my take here. I know I've got a lot of hours of Elite play because I don't get a lot of time to to play it generally, but I think the key thing here for me is that. Yeah, it's a pretty ship. It's a variation, so that's fine. Yeah.
So, I mean, does anyone have the opinion that it'll keep the old schoolers, the old 84ers, as we're all now begun to know, happy because it looks so similar to the original?
So it
From
looks a
the
bit
game.
like looks a bit like a pair of Y fronts. Is that what you're saying?
I'd just say the geometry is quite close.
Well, they need to sort of highlight the lines. You know, if you highlight the lines, then it will look a bit more like a pair of Y fronts.
Well, all they need is a skin, isn't it?
Yeah, so do you think they'll do it? Do you
Maybe
think
we
they'll
can
do the
ask for a
Wi-Fi's
Wi-Fi
pack?
Yeah.
A white front pack.
So for those of you watching
Okay.
the Twitch, I'm going to hightail it back to Lave as quickly as I can. It's 16 jumps for me, and that will include a refuel. So I'm on my way.
Ooh. Good luck. In the meantime, the Cobra Mark IV. Who would like to discuss this?
Do you know what? I need to share this video really carefully because I'll probably plough into a sun if I do it wrong. Give me a second. Let me just come out of Super Cruise and I'll share this video. You guys carry on.
Okay. Well, I mean, my initial impression of this, it looked big, it looked meaty, and I must admit I was quite impressed with the hard points that came out. So, just in summary, we know it's got better gun positions, which are more central, and they're all on top. So we've got 5 hard points for this one. It looks like 2 medium and 3 small. Tougher than the Cobra, but not as fast nor maneuverable. But it does have go faster fins. Okay, Ben, you're up first. What's your impression?
I can definitely see myself trading my Cobra in for a Mark IV. I do use my Cobra a lot for fighting and things like that. It's not my main fighting ship, but I've used it before. And if my skins carry over, then I would definitely consider the Mark IV over the Mark III.
I should just say, I mean, at this point, just because that point's come up on the video, the Cobra Mark IV looks like it got a hell of a lot of firepower. I mean, there's one point in this video. Let me zoom up to it. There's one point here where they've got 5 weapons mounted and they're firing them all simultaneously. I personally would not want to be on the end of that barrage of fire. I don't care what hard points those are. That's a lot of firepower. Sorry, I'm completely muffing up playing this video. But yeah, I mean, it's just it'll be really interesting to see what the power plant options are to back up that firepower and just how much power you can put behind those guns.
I do think I can think of one weakness. It's got nothing on the bottom, so effectively, turrets. You won't have anything to protect you if you put turrets on it on the bottom. So
Yes,
that's
but
potential weakness.
as they said, 90% of the time you pull up into a fight, you're not pulling down. Because the way you're looking, you can't really look below you. Even in the Lakon cockpits where you do have that glass bottom, you still don't really look below you so much. I should also point out, actually, that Frontier have said that we're going to get our skins carried over to the alternatives. I think, if I remember correctly, they said it for the Imperial Eagle. But we've got no skins at all on the Imperial Eagle, any carried over or not. So it's one of these things that I'm going to believe it when we see it.
Alan?
Sorry, I'm busy typing something. We've just had an incredible offer in the Twitch stream. I don't know if you've seen, and we have 30 minutes to get some content sorted out. So I am currently writing it.
Okay, we'll let you write
What
that.
is this
Did you
incredible
want me
offer?
to-
Can we
did
hear
you wa-
this?
Did you want me to talk about the Cobra? Okay, so the Cobra. My thoughts on the Cobra. When it was said it was slightly slower, maybe a little bit less maneuverable, I was probably sticking with what I've got then, because I already find the Cobra 3 a little bit slow and a little bit unmaneuverable. However, what Sandy was saying about the turrets on the top, interesting. That obviously might be a particular advantage in terms of a fight, and we know that it's particularly designed for planetary landing, isn't it? And it's one of those kind of nice things that you know it's a reward. You know.
Yeah.
I'll carry on typing. Don't worry. Just come to me every time. Just give me a prod. It'll be fine. I'll have something to say. I'm sure.
Okay. Well, moving on from one Mark IV, we'll go to the next Mark IV, the Viper Mark IV. Now, first impressions of this thing was it does look a bit nastier than the original. Well, not the original, but the Viper Mark III. We know it's tougher, bigger, and stronger. It has a better power plant. It has a better FSD. Got a lower top speed and 2 hard points. So, this one does look as if... Is it going to be a vulture killer? That's what I really want to know. Chris? She crashed
So I'm
into
doing
a sun
all
again.
kinds of things. No. So I've got the video playing. I mean, my thoughts about the Viper Mark IV. I mean, really, the thing that I first thought when I looked at it, it kind of looks like the A-wing from Star Wars. I mean, I know that because Alan was sort of saying that there's maybe a little bit of kind of reimagining of ships and things. I like the fact that this version of the Viper is very different. I think it does have quite a different aesthetic to the Viper because the Viper's always been traditionally based on that pyramid model from the original game, triangular sort of shape. And this is very much a kind of winged snub-nosed fighter. And I think it looks like a sort of love child of a Cylon Raider and an A-wing from Star Wars. For all that, I think it looks amazing. And I think it's the kind of... It looks like a really beefed up F-63. It looks like an F-63 that's been taken out of CQC and given enough weight and size and power to actually kind of survive in the universe. I can't get a feel for the size of it. My feeling is it's about the same sort of size as maybe a Sidewinder, maybe a little bit longer and a little bit nastier. I don't know if that's accurate.
I'm afraid to say that it's a bit bigger than a Sidewinder. If it's anything like the Mark III, then it's a bit bigger. I must admit, the styling on it I really like, especially the spoilers. I don't know why I like the spoilers, but I do. So, Ben, your opinion, please.
I'm not a fan of the Viper as it currently stands anyway, so I think the Mark IV does look better, but I'm much more into the more maneuverable ships.
Mm-hmm.
So a thing that flies fast in a straight line really doesn't do it for me. And the Mark IV's, it's not more of the same, but it's more maneuverable and it looks awesome. But I'm not convinced it's one for me.
Yeah, fair enough. Alan, have you got a minute?
Yeah, I do, and certainly the Viper I have a particular view on. Yes, very nice. Variation on, obviously, from the 3. To be honest, though, I love the Viper 2 and the Viper 1. And where they've started talking about fighters and some of the stuff related to fighters, and saying that fighters are going to be the only ships that you can carry in an Anaconda and other ships, I'd really like them to bring back the Viper 2, bring back the Viper 2 as a fighter, because that's kind of what it was designed for, because then you'd have the Eagle, you'd have the Condor, and the Imperial fighter, and you'd have a Viper 2, So, it's nice to look at a Viper 4, and I get the sort of the threat that everybody seems. No, actually, to be honest, I don't see it as it. It is zippy and it is a threatening game, but I'm not sure that I get the wedge shape as being sort of threatening. I was thinking more of a bird of prey being more threatening. That sort of clawing over you. You know what I mean? But yeah, Viper 2, as Watch has just said in the Twitch chat. Yeah, literally a Viper 2 without a frameshift drive as a as a defense unit for
stations.
For space stations,
yeah.
and chucking on Anacondas. I'm ashamed to say it and ashamed to plug it, but that fits exactly how we envisaged it in Lave Revolution. So that's exactly what they were used for. They were put on the Copperheads. The Copperheads being the frigates that went out into deep space, and the Viper 2 was that was on them. They were called coffin rockets. Was the nickname for them because in the end, because they were so old, the Viper 2s, in the end, basically they were considered to be one-man suicide ships. Still fast, still packed a punch, but they were outdated and outmoded. Hence why we have the Viper 3.
Yeah, so not the kind of ship you'd like to put in CQC then.
Well, I mean, it depends how Frontier, do design if they wanted to, to do it. I love the idea of. It dates back to there was a German jet back in the 80s that was designed that was known as a flying coffin, and when I was writing Revolution, I knew about that particular sort of thing, and I thought because we know the Viper 2 is not going to be in the game at that time, we thought the Viper 2 is not going to be in the game. Let's give it a really good reason as to why the Viper's been completely redesigned. Hence, coffin rocket and suicide ship and too outmoded and blah 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 blah. So yeah, but no, I sorry if it's not talking about the Viper 4, but I like the Viper 2. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that German fighter was ironically called the Starfighter.
Yeah, I think you might be right. It's the sort of dagger one, the sort of
yes.
It looked like a kind of tripe.
Yeah, it had a massive tail on it, and I remember doing aircraft recognition on that when I was in the Air Cadets. But yes, so we'll move on from the Viper Mark IV to something which we were all confused about to begin with: the keelback. And I must admit, when I saw the keelback, I will admit to being a little disappointed because it was another. It's a Type 6, but a Type 6 variant.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's not bad. It fulfills a role that actually I was trying to kit a Type 6 out for. I kind of gave up on doing it because I didn't have any hard points. I didn't have anything to put any guns on. But I was considering kitting a Type 6 out as an explorer.
Yes.
And using it as a deep space explorer because. It does give you more options for particular things. We've been corrected on Starfighter. Apparently, it was American. Thanks for that, Jim Sec. You're the man. I wouldn't know my planes. Couldn't claim to be any kind of expert, but I just remember something that when I was a kid. In terms of the keelback, it's nice that we're going to be able to do that with what is essentially a freighter, a converted freighter. But if that's one of the 30 ships, I'm kind of little bit
Yes.
You know what I mean? If it's ship number 31, number 31, no trouble at all. Great. Well done, guys. That's great. You've solved a design issue that players want to play that way. Brilliant, well done. If it's one of the 30, kind of, it's a variant, isn't it?
Yeah.
Giving Frontier a benefit of a doubt here, I think Frontier have actually blown that 30 out the door because we've got our 30 ship. Well, we've got 31 ships in game now, and we know they've got a bunch more ships still planned.
Awesome. Then the thing you have to remember is, of course, always whenever I say anything like that. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about because a lot of the time, I have had playtime and I've been up and I've played a little bit of the game this week, but my experience is limited to the fact that I'm flying around in still the same Cobra I got from the beginning, and I can only see the ships that I can afford at a particular time. I've not gone out and browsed the shipyard so much. So if you're saying there's 31 already, then fantastic.
Sorry, come ships, I should actually qualify that with, not already.
Okay. What do you mean? As in, to come?
So when 1.5 is shipped, then I think there's 31 playable ships in-game. But two of them, I think, are going to be... one of them is CQC only with the Fed Fighter.
Yeah.
And a bunch of them are variants on ships rather than full new designs.
This is what I'm talking
things.
about.
So
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about then, isn't it? Essentially, it would
Yeah.
be nice to have, those sort of clear, different ships, and then the variants being the additional. Because then, if the variants are the additional, you're kind of, it feels like a luxury. Do you know what I mean? It feels like you're over delivering. Then, if you're calling the variants the 30 ships, it kind of doesn't feel like it's an over delivery.
Well,
So, yeah.
well, that's what I'm saying. We've got 31 at the moment, and we know that there are the other passenger ones at the very least to come.
Yeah, sure.
Well, going over the actual ship itself, we know it's still a trader. It's got more hard points. We've got 2 medium ones. It's still quite manoeuvrable, and it's got better internals, armour, but less cargo. But it's still got its jump range. Now, if I remember rightly, in Alpha 2, or was it Alpha 4, the Type 6 was used as an explorer vessel by a lot of people to try and get around the place. So, I mean, it does seem like it's gone and improved on the Type 6, but it's all down to what you want to use it for, I think. Chris? I think have we lost Chris?
He's shooting. He looks like he's shooting someone, so I think he's in the middle of a dogfight.
Right, fair
based on
enough,
what's
then.
on Twitch.
Okay, then we'll move on from what has been variants to, I think, the first original ship that I think everybody in the chat room was really excited to see, and that was the Federal Corvette. Now, just quickly, going over this, we know that it's got 2 huge, 2 small, 2 medium, and 1 large hardpoint. It's similar to the Anaconda, but slightly more streamlined and more manoeuvrable. They didn't reveal the ranking that you'd need in the Federal Navy to get one. It's not easy to land on planets. And Sandy suspects, but isn't sure, that the jump range will be similar to the Anaconda. And apparently it's got good shields. So this seems to be the big ship that any Federal player will want to have in the end. What did you think, Ben? Were you impressed by the big guns?
I was very impressed by the big guns. I mean, I'm usually fairly Imperial bias rather than Fed bias, but I hate to say this, and I actually think I prefer the look of the Fed Corvette over the Imperial Cutter at the moment with the video that we've seen. Now, we'll obviously have to see that what it's like in game, but I love the look of the Federal Corvette. I think it just shouts power, and I'm looking forward to flying one, to trying one of those things out, even if I might not be able to land very far.
What about you, Alan? Is this one getting you enthused to start grinding credits?
The Corvette, probably never see it. ever. I might see one in the distance or when they blow me up. But yeah, I can't see myself. I'll probably be a pensioner by the time I get anywhere near affording something like that. I think with the biggest ships, I'm slightly disincentivized to want to play with them, specifically because the multi-crew and the multi-crew NPC options aren't in place yet. And Sandy talked about that, and he talked about their plans for that in Season 2. I kind of want that to be there. It's one of the reasons why I'm not interested in grinding up to the Anaconda. Not that I have the time, but I'm not interested so much in it, because I actually want those things to be in place. And one of the nice things about not having as much playtime at the moment is, of course, that ladder of ships is still very much open to me. People who've gone past the Diamondback or gone past or gone to the Asp Explorer and so on and so forth. The Asp Scout is a nice another step. You know what I mean? It's still there for me in terms of a progression step.
Yes.
So for some people that I know when the Diamondback came out, there were a few people that said, oh, I've already got something bigger or better. Specifically with the Corvette, yeah, and I completely agree with Watchy saying this in the chat, that it's nice to view a big ship from afar. Yeah, it's kind of, it will add to the space opera, So if you if you launch out of hyperspace or you come out of supercruise, and there's a war going on, and you're seeing corvettes and some of the bigger ships and so on in the middle of this war, it adds to the space opera. Certainly did with the Anaconda. So yeah, I'm excited in that regard, but not necessarily because I want to own one. Not yet.
So,
Sorry,
Chris, have you managed to?
Yeah, what was the question, Colin? I got interdicted.
I was just about to ask whether or not you'd managed to achieve escape velocity from that pirate you were fighting.
Yeah. No, I got interdicted by a Viper with a couple of beam lasers, and to be honest, I would have taken him, but security turned up and chased him off, and I couldn't catch him. He was too fast for me. But yeah, sorry. What was the question? And what video?
We're discussing the Federal Corvette at the moment.
Oh, okay. Let me get that up for you. Yeah, Federal Corvette. I mean, really, it's kind of a thing of beauty. If nothing else, just because of the size of it. I mean, you go back to that original video that we saw of Illy, the old. I still can't remember the name of that video, but it was the big capital ship battle video. And I think this is
the Damocles video.
Damocles video. This has got to be the closest thing to owning a Damocles. I mean, it's not as big as a Federal battleship, but it looks like a Federal battleship, only smaller. And I think if you want that feeling of kind of a ship that is, rather than it being a kind of manoeuvrable dogfighty ship, that it's something that can sit there and take a bit of punishment while it kind of pounds away at attacking fighters with kind of turrets and other kinds of countermeasures. I think this is the ship to fulfill that kind of fantasy. I mean, you can, it's not a standing on the bridge giving orders kind of ship. You can see it's still very much got a recognisable player cockpit. But I think it's for a different kind of fighting. This is a ship for battles of attrition. It's a ship for saying, you can attack me, but don't come alone, kind of thing. I mean, to give another sense of scale, if I'm playing these videos out, I did notice that Frontier also had a video showing an SRV driving around a Federal Corvette on the ground, which is interesting because I think one of the things they said in the stream, wasn't it, was that the Federal Corvette is not easy to land. And I kind of want the landing of the Federal Corvette to be a bit like the moment in Alien where the ship touches down on the planet's surface, rather than it being this kind of nice, very cool sci-fi skim down to surface that you're going to be taking kind of every metre at a time and just trying to make sure that your eventual drop on the soil is as gentle as it can possibly be. But I mean, look at it, it's a beast.
Yeah, I mean, you can just imagine how sphincter twitching it's going to be when a couple of players come out at you and one of those.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not looking forward to getting interdicted by one particularly. That said, there was some talk, wasn't there, on one of the Q&As recently about the way interdiction works, that I think a large ship interdicting a small ship is meant to be a bit of a disadvantage. Looking at this, I'm quite glad about that. I might just upgrade my thrusters at this point and just make a run for it.
I actually think, do your thrusters actually affect the interdiction? I don't think they do.
No, I mean for getting away after you've been interdicted.
Oh yeah, good point.
First thing I'll be doing is just running back to jump distance. But yeah. I mean, it's I think it's for a different kind of gameplay. It might actually, I mean, for people who are able to grind up to affording a Federal Corvette, because there's this whole kind of ongoing debate over player skill and ship upgrades, and whether or not, if you're someone that doesn't feel confident in your gunfighting ability for CQC, or not CQC but for PvP, then this is the kind of ship where if you've grinded your way up to a lot of credits and you can afford to kit this thing out, it might not matter so much if you're not as good a pilot. As long as you can manage your ship systems, you might actually just be able to kind of take on maybe someone who's maybe a bit better of a gunfighter than you.
Yeah, can you
Someone says in
imagine
Twitch, would be nice to see battle fleets are matching. Can you imagine loads of people jumping into an instance with these and just pounding the hell out of each other?
Oh, well, I think we can speculate on that when we see the Empire's equivalent, which is, and I must admit, everybody in the Twitch stream really, really wanted to see this one, the Cutter.
Okay, so is
The
this an equivalent size to the
Yes.
Corvette? Is it? Okay.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
it looks
It's
smaller.
similar to. Yeah. Well, they said that that is basically an optical illusion because Sandy said it was similar to the size in the Anaconda, but a bit taller. It's faster than both the Anaconda and the Corvette. It has two medium, two large, and one huge, so not as bigly armed or well armed rather as a Corvette. Not as maneuverable either, and is more multi-role. Now, my initial impression of this was, I must admit, a little bit disappointing. It looked very, very nice, but I remember the Imperial Trader from First Encounters on Frontier, and that had a third nacelle at the top. So it looked very Liberator-like, and I loved that ship for it. So I was hoping that we might have a third nacelle on this one. But getting past that, I thought it looked very sleek, and as has already been pointed out in the Twitch chat, very Minbari-like. Yeah. So, what do you think to that one? Would you be scared if you saw that one coming after you, Chris?
No, I definitely would. I was just going to make a comment though on the comparative size. I think this goes right back to the very early days of seeing images from Elite Dangerous in kind of alpha, and people were sort of talking about the scale of things not being clear. And there was someone at that time that made a really interesting post about how the reason the big ships look big is because they've got lots of little surface detail. That's one of the reasons, the Coriolis stations look big, is because they've got all these little lights and city things. It's interesting that if this looks smaller than the Federal Corvette, it's probably because its surfaces are quite featureless. It's got very smooth lines, very little objects, kind of on here. So it's going to look like a smaller ship in perception. But actually, in terms of the size of it and the mass and the tonnage, you could well be right. It might not be any smaller at all.
Alan, what did you think of this big Imperial monster?
It's pretty. It's pretty. I like the white colour. It looked a little bit. I've got a little bit of 1980s Eagle comics about this, and there was a particular artist that worked on Starblazer. Yeah, that worked on Starblazer and quite a lot of. It wasn't the original artist that worked on the Eagle. It was one of the 1980s artists that was part of the team when the Eagle came back, and he had this. I always knew because I have every 1980s Eagle comic.
Oh, you managed better than me then.
Everyone, yeah, I've got a complete collection from 1982 all the way through to when it folded, and the thing was that when this particular artist came in, it was Ian something. When his work came in, you knew it was his work. You absolutely knew it was his work because he just had this amazing way of of bringing the stuff to it, and he was the best. In my view, he was the best best comic book artist, and you can see that specifically within this ship. You've got the Z99 kind of in this ship a little bit. The Z99 was a little bit more like a mantis or had that sort of that face of a mantis a little bit, but the cutter's more sleeker. But you can certainly see that kind of artwork in what's there. It's very pretty. The only thing is, of course, is that kind of ship you look at and you expect it to be tearing across the galaxy, and kind of be the Flash Gordon ship, the
Starship Ajax, so to speak.
Yeah, or the zany super cool hero ship, and it kind of isn't because its role in the game is to be the big Imperial bruiser. But that's fine. Aesthetic, it's the style, it's the idea, and it would be interesting to see how it fits with the rest of the Imperial fleet, how they all look together, because I think that's certainly. That's a very distinct aesthetic, isn't it, in terms of what's there?
Yeah, Yeah, can I
Yeah,
just make a quick observation? It does seem to me that it seems that the individual ships on the Imperial side seem to be slightly weaker than their federal counterparts, and that
yeah,
seems to have been a theme all the way through. I mean,
yeah.
was that put in from the beginning, or is it
Well,
something
it's
that's evolved?
no. Well, we only really had concepts, so we had there was some elements that we were given some some content about, but I certainly didn't pick up a distinctive theme relating to that. Um, I mean that's I mean that might well work in terms of the way in which they're balancing it and the way in which the design, the Adrian Newey kind of the Elite Dangerous Universe is the Gutermeyer, in terms of obviously aerodynamics don't actually matter so much in space, but it's got to look pretty. I think the key thing I wanted to say related to the large ships is that I'm still waiting for the industrial plant in space, because as many people, and this is kind of ties in with the point about variants and ships.
Mm.
The alliance stuff, we still
Yes.
want to see alliance ships, and the alliance ships are supposed to be basically cobbled
Hodge,
together
yeah,
rubbish. We
hodgepodge.
want we want the cobbled together rubbish. That's what we want. It's fine that we've got a functional design federation. We've got a style design in the Imperials, and we've got the sort of middle ground of your hauler and what have you, utilitarian ideas. There, that's fine. I now want industrial plants in space.
I'd agree with that.
That's
Yeah.
because there's a science fiction tradition in that, isn't there? There's if you think about all of the major science fiction films and all of the stories, there's quite a lot of the stories. I wouldn't say all of the science fiction stories, but the major science fiction films, you've always got these kind of modded and cobbled together pieces of rubbish that suddenly have their day or what have you. That's the kind of stuff we want. The stuff that looks like a Nebulan bee, the stuff that looks like some of the crap that the Galactica used to have to haul around with. We're looking for those kind of things now, and it'd be lovely to see Frontier just have a think about that, and think about what are these long-range explorer vessels that the Alliance was supposed to have all those years ago. What do they look like? And they're cobbled together. What are some of these sort of independents who are trying to build their own fleets? What do they look like? And if they turn some of their procedural generation tools onto that and thought about the ships as modular ideas, chucked a couple of those nice check digits in the end of when they do their procedural codes, which they did for all their planets and everything, to make sure the variations didn't go nuts. If they did that with a set of modular blocks related to ship design, you'd get some awesome weirdness, which would be very cool. And then you'd have all these independents would have these really strange bits and pieces. I like that idea, and I'd like to see them start thinking about that. Maybe that's a season 3 thing,
I just want to take that idea and actually, it's a private theory of mine. I am almost convinced that Frontier are deliberately avoiding the Alliance for now.
They said as much in the
I've-
chat, didn't they?
If they did, I missed that. But we know what the Alliance were up to with Frontier First Encounters. We know that they're a little bit pally with a certain alien threat in inverted commas. Can you imagine what they could do with their hodgepodgey buildiness and access to friendly aliens?
Yes. Well,
Oh, squee.
I hate to pour that, but I really don't see that as.
No.
I'm afraid. I don't think that there's an. I don't. I think that we've gone for two very clear styles, and I think that's fine. And I think they're thinking about player function, and I think that's fine. And that's obviously the priorities related to their design. the thing is with the Alliance idea, and even the idea of that kind of procedurally generated box-based ship construction, you would you couldn't really open that up to players. So what you're doing, to start with, is you're creating something that's almost NPC only, and you've only really got 2 or 3 ships that they've done that with. I love you, Ben, but I'm afraid I don't see that much strategy in that connection, and that's not me. It's not me being nasty and overly negative and critical, but I think that we can kind of talk the whole Thargoids, I wonder what, and so on, but I think they've got ideas there. I don't think that they're at a stage where they can connect all those dots in that kind of way, because it's not, from the evidence of how we've seen development so far, that's not really how they've managed their developments. They do seed stuff. You see, I mean, obviously what's been talked about today about materials and synthesis is, towards the crafting and what have you, but I just don't see that happening, I'm afraid.
I have to admit, I don't really see it happening either, but I can still dream.
Yeah, sure.
No, I can understand where Ben is coming from with that. I mean, are we allowed to give forward spoilers for the end for Frontier First Encounters? Because
Spoilers for a game that's 20 odd years old.
Yeah, well, some new people won't know about all this kind of stuff. It might be fun for them to find out, but oh, what the heck! Well, let's just say that your pilot at the end of Frontier First Encounters could fly a Thargoid vessel, and of course that Thargoid vessel was a reward for completing something on behalf of the Alliance. Now, I do know that it does imply that there's a certain level of friendliness between the Thargoids and the Alliance, but if I remember rightly, hasn't that kind of gone away?
Yeah, that's sort of been dialed back on a little bit, to be honest. And I think the advantage of those missions being slightly broken and hand-coded, so there was, a certain amount of gymnastics you had to do with your copy of Frontier First Encounters to be able to get to those missions, that has allowed Frontier to dial back on it slightly. And I think that's probably a good thing. And I'm not, I've no idea, and I'll make this clear. I'm not some sort of strange inside track. The thing is that one of the things about the Thargoids, and one of the reasons that the original elite, there was the switch from the original elite to this mysterious race, as opposed to cute furry felines everywhere and such and such insects and this, that and the other, is you have the mystery of the encounter and the mystery of how humanity deals with an alien race that is entirely alien, and it is a it's a wonderful trope to explore, and that does give a really good trope to explore. And actually, Elite went against that idea in its first sense. Frontier dialed back and and kind of removed them so that they were so you got used to your own game universe, and then Frontier First Encounters reintroduced them, but then there was a certain amount of solve on the end which kind of resolved the encounter, as it were. So I think by dialing back a little bit more to that mystery, we're at the frontier stage at the moment. Yeah, okay, we're 100 odd years on, and we know the Thargoids have been around, but we're at that stage of the sort of frontier moment, i.e., they're out there somewhere. That's fine, and when they bring them in, I think that some of that specific solve that you had in First Encounters, I think you'll see that that's not really, I think the many of the legacy things would be there, but some of that solve, because it removes that mystery, and it removes that opportunity for multiple players to engage, not just in their own systems, but also grouping together and fighting the Thargoids, or grouping together and finding out about the Thargoids, or grouping together and allying with the Thargoids, or whatever, or any other races that they're choosing to bring in.
Funny you should mention that.
That illusion needs to be there, and I think it's a right choice. I am not really a fan of retconning in any form, but this one, I think the little bit of dial back from those hand-coded missions, I think is probably the right choice.
Right. Well, now that's not all that they discussed, the ships, in the stream. What they also touched on was the collectibles and the materials. Now, this seems to be a precursor to the crafting system, but it's not crafting itself. And we have this new thing called synthetics, which allows you to take these materials.
It's called
and
synthesis.
Synthesis, then.
I don't know what it is with you tonight, dude.
I've gone through one beer, so
I was
I'm
going to say we prefer the term artificial people.
Yeah, synthesis rather than synthetic. Now it's me.
See, you can't even
given
say
to
it
me.
now.
Yeah, synthetics obviously being, artificial people, as Chris said.
The Ford
synthesis-
virus is spreading to you all. You're all going to be mixing your words up by the end of today.
Synthesis being a process, which is what we're looking at.
Yeah. So, I mean, synthesis, happy now, allows you to play with new stuff. It allows you to collect these materials, and depending on what you can do with them, you could recharge auto repair modules. The thing that got the chat room really excited was munitions fabricators, fuel boosting for your frame shift drive, a whole load of that extra little bit of oomph that you can get just by crafting your own things. Alan?
It's, sorry if I'm talking a lot. Obviously, I've been away so long that, I'm desperate to hog the microphone. The interesting thing here that occurred to me when this was introduced was, and they talked about it, was that this is a power-up system. And generally, certainly when CQC hit and people talked about the fact that CQC had a power-up system and you could fly through gates and get stuff, I kind of went, oh god, arcadey, oh, I don't like that kind of game. Oh, and actually I quite like CQC. I've quite enjoyed it. It's kind of helped me get back in a little bit in terms of gameplay because it's quick. But this is a power-up system that is entirely plausible in proposed and the way in which you discover the elements of it, which I thought was really clever. I thought that's hunting down things that have been procedurally generated. It was interesting to hear that one question where someone said, "Will there be strange stuff on the other side of the galaxy?" And Sandy's like, "Because he doesn't know, because it's an algorithm." So, so he doesn't know where anything is. So, the idea of a procedurally generated set of resources layered out that you can then combo up in different ways, particularly if they expand it into, a multitude of different sort of facets, and they start thinking about how you can custom different things, how you might be able to, short boosts or anything else, anything that anybody can think of that could customize relating to the way in which your ship works. And they said 6, didn't they, at the moment, I think was the way. But, later on you might go with lots of others, sort of hot rodding your ship in some way. I think's great. I think that's great. I'd like to see it link up with the standard trade system as well. I mean, Sandy said that it doesn't at the moment, fundamentally, in terms of you
keep these materials even if you die.
Yeah, I'd rather see it linked into the standard trade system and and see a commodity. But then again, I guess you could, if there is an ability to gift them or to remove them, put them down, and so on and so forth, you might see a player economy, essentially arrive in that, sort of transfer of credits for something. But, well, I mean, the more it replicates the idea of you being a starship commander out there in the middle of space, having all the options that you would have, the better. The less there are sort of game-based walls between some of those things, the better. But of course, that takes time, and they've got to bed this in and see how it works, before they couple it to to any of the other trade systems.
Yeah, but it does give something for explorers to really do. They can really capitalize on this, and it's nice that this explorer mechanic can be linked in and used to enhance your ship.
Yeah, very much so.
Ben?
I was just
Well,
about to say, actually, that I completely agree. I think this is going to be awesome for explorers. One question that I saw asked in the chat that didn't make it out to Sandy, unfortunately, was, can this also repair your hull? So that would, and certainly I know several commanders who maybe have a bit of a thing for running between neutron stars and taking hull damage.
This is fine.
It's all good, yeah. But having the ability to repair your modules and potentially, especially your hull, or Commander Flossie, your cargo hatch, then that's really going to help people out. I just think that's the most exciting thing for that.
Chris? Oh, is he busy? Is
Sorry,
he busy?
no. I have to click buttons in order to be back on the stream. It's interesting. I think what I kind of got from it. I mean, I have to confess a certain amount of frustration with this YouTube gaming technology they're using. I was trying to look into why I was having so many problems with it, and I noticed that it was a kind of big thing they were pushing at E3, and I couldn't help but wonder if Frontier had made some sort of deal with YouTube to use YouTube gaming rather than Twitch. Because every time I try and watch the YouTube gaming on my phone, it insists that you download a YouTube gaming app, which then promptly provides you with 2 seconds of audio and then goes silent, and then seems to play video at 50% speed. So I'm a little bit frustrated with the unproven technology of YouTube gaming. Once I eventually got on the PC and caught about the last 20 minutes of the stream, they were talking about the crafting thing, and the impression I got from it, and I wasn't sure if this was wrong, that some of the things they were talking about, we were talking about like giving little boosts to it. I kind of liked the idea of it as being a little short-term buff, in the same way that in like a role-playing game you might quaff a potion that just kind of doubles your attack for like 30 seconds. And just, I like the idea of that in the munitions crafting, that you might be able to kind of imbue your physical rounds with just something really nasty that for one particular reload just does like crazy amounts of damage. Like it's some sort of magnetic metal that just frazzles people's systems, temporarily or something like that. I kind of like the idea. I mean, like Alan said, the whole kind of driving through power-ups thing is maybe a bit arcadey, but actually, finding something out there and bolting it onto your weapons to give you like a temporary boost, I think actually is quite exciting. But it's kind of all about balance. I mean, you don't know how much adding something's going to break it. But I think that, just hand a bit like there's that Resident Evil movie where she loads a sawn-off shotgun just with loads of coins. You just think, that's really cool. That's a weapon designed for shredding. And I like that, the idea that you might be able to just load your Gatling cannons with just all kinds of rock and uranium and any kind of rubbish you found on a planet's surface, and just make yourself like, one clip's worth of really dirty weaponry. It kind of appeals to me.
I was thinking of stealth, and the heat signature. Whether there was something that you could do in that. Do you know what I mean? Whether I don't know, coating of the not just coating of the hull plating, increasing sort of defense and what have you, but something that allowed you to be less scannable. I hate that word. My grammar to rubbish too. I've just been picked up in chat. Your, yeah, I know. All right, thank you, Nexus Reject. As I said to Watchy earlier, if you're going to correct grammar in the chat, then I think you'll be there all day. But Absolutely, you are completely right. 10 points for Gryffindor.
Or if he's correcting grammar, shouldn't that be Slytherin, really?
Probably.
Well, we'll just
I
quickly
was
go
going
through
to say
the...
Hufflepuff, but I'm not sure if that makes me just way too much of a Harry Potter nerd. They're the academic ones, aren't they? I thought Slytherin probably more likely to try and buy fags.
No,
off
Hufflepuff are the Duffers.
them. Oh, are they? Okay.
Did I get on the wrong? Did I get on the wrong podcast? Are we?
Yeah, I was just about to say.
I haven't even started streaming Chaos yet.
There we go,
Right, who
Simon.
else?
Another two fingers of your drink, please. Thank you.
Yeah, 2 fingers to Simon.
Yeah, 2 fingers to Simon.
Moving on.
Moving on, yes. Well, we'll just quickly go over some of the questions that they asked Sandy. There's a couple of interesting points that came out of there. When asked what's the largest ship that could be stored as a fighter, they said something interesting which seemed to break what is on the description of the Anaconda, and said there are no plans for ships larger than fighters to be held inside the ships. So all of a sudden I thought, hang on a second, does that mean fighters as in the class of fighter, say like an Eagle or a Sidewinder, or does it actually mean something like the Hunter or the Falcon?
Well, Sandy specifically said you won't be able to take a Sidewinder in a ship, didn't he?
I must admit, I must have missed those particular questions at the time. So
Yeah, no, he did. He did. Ben is completely right. I thought that was interesting because I was classing the Sidewinder because of CQC. I was putting the Sidewinder in the same box as the other ships that are available in CQC. But I think they're essentially thinking of the Fed fighter and the Imperial fighter. I don't know if they're including the Eagle. I'd hope they're including Eagle, but of course, as soon as you get to the Eagle, you've got a jump-capable ship. So, does that mean, that the jump-capable ships can go in there? It's tricky. I mean, Sandy was quite clear that he did say not the Sidewinder. Maybe he was wrong. Maybe he didn't say the, maybe he said the wrong thing. Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see, won't it? Because they've got to have some ships work on it, otherwise it wouldn't be a feature.
yeah, well, you see, I think that's what confused me a little bit because they're always on about the fact that you could fly another ship while your ship you get into a fighter class ship from your Anaconda and fly that about, but then. The Sidewinder it says in the text of the Anaconda that it can hold up to a Sidewinder's size. Now, that seems a bit strange unless they are putting the Falcon and the Hunter in the game itself as flyable ships. Now, I was under the impression they were only going to stay in CQC.
Yeah,
I'm not under that impression at all. I think they're definitely coming, and I think that we will definitely get them as flyable ships that we can deploy from our larger ships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, because the next question that we've got on the list here is sort of someone asking, can I carry an SRV inside a Sidewinder, inside an Anaconda, leave the Anaconda in orbit and land the Sidewinder with the SRV? The answer was no. Which kind of implies that anything that's jump capable can't really be held inside something like the Anaconda.
Well, do we know that the SRV will fit in the Sidewinder yet?
Well, yeah, they said that an SRV can fit in any ship because it'll fit into one of the slots, even a grade 1.
Okay, all right.
So I think that's beginning to point the way to say that it looks like we might be having fighters in our landing bays in the Anaconda, not Sidewinders.
Well, it gives another reason, certainly in terms of play style and grouping. It gives another reason to fly different style ships, doesn't it? Because the one problem with a non-jump capable ship is that you're stuck. You can have a lovely dogfight and everything else, but you're stuck. But if you wing up with people, then you have the opportunity to be able to go to the place that you want to go to, and go all Return of the Jedi on them when you get there. The point being, that kind of space opera gameplay. You take the one on the left, I'll take the one on the right. Elite kind of does that anyway, but the ships are quite large. But when we're getting down to the fighters, we're talking about very small, sort of stuff. So yeah, maybe that sort of cooperative, collaborative gameplay of deployment, will work quite well. I mean, if you had a wing where you took 2 Anacondas and 4 fighters, that'd be pretty cool.
Yes.
Yeah, that's quite a nice hunting group, that, isn't it?
Yes, it's something that you'd be scared of seeing as 2 Anacondas coming out at you, and then all of a sudden you've got 6 contacts.
Yeah, the Copperhead and I hate to come back to this. I'm really sorry. I'm not trying to plug the book, but it is something that I did do. The Copperhead in Lave Revolution. The idea of the Copperhead was that during the wars against the Thargoids in the 3200s and the 3100s, the Copperheads were sent out with Viper fighters in them, and they had launch bays for 4 Viper fighters. They had no cargo hold at all. They just had these exterior canisters on them that launched Viper fighters out. And so basically they were long-range deployment frigates where you had a pack of Copperheads would turn up somewhere, and then they just deploy the Vipers. And I think you're seeing something fairly similar. I possibly would like the Anaconda to be able to deploy more than 2 fighters, but I can understand why they might want to keep the player ratio, to a particular thing if they're doing some testing on group battles.
Yeah. So, I mean, the other things that were touched on, basically, will there be new weapons of 1.5, which was hopefully yes. Whether or not we will be able to store the loot we find, well, not to go into much detail, things you can collect goes into this thing called personal storage, which is what I was on about before, where apparently even if you die, your personal storage is saved. Passenger missions will be, the plan is to get passenger missions in play in Season 2 at some point.
So is no one playing a drinking game with passenger missions? We seem to get promised that quite regularly.
Yeah, I think we should start that one.
Oh yeah. I mean,
because we thought they were coming with the Orca, and then they didn't.
No.
Yeah, and the dolphins still, sort of.
Yeah, that's still missing.
And then they published this thing saying, for some weird reason, the Orca's the least popular of all the ships in Elite Dangerous. Like, well, there's no gameplay for it.
Really? No. The reason the Orca is not popular is mostly down to Mr. Wilcott, because he managed to advertise the fact that it runs out of fuel.
Okay.
Has it got a leak? Does it kind of, go everywhere with it?
This was before the fuel rats decided to come into existence. So.
Oh, I see. I think we should do some spoof advertising for the Orca when we get some time, Chris. We should do, the luxury liner with a passenger of 1. You even get that amazing experience of handling all the controls yourself.
Yeah, figure out for yourself what a multi-crew might do further down the line. Yeah.
Well, there's actually something quite interesting about multi-crew. Someone asked the question: will crewmates count as wing members, or will wings be counted as ships of players, i.e., 6 players, 2 of which are each in 2 crew in each ship? To which they said currently crew members will be wing members. So it sounds to me as if you can have a maximum of 4 crew on a ship.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to be interesting when they start pulling that all together. Just as a last thought on the Orca, Stephen Usher has just said Commander Jenner uses the Orca very effectively as a ramming ship. If you like to keep your Orca pretty, then to send John out with the teacut to go and polish it afterwards. But,
So, what I want to know is though, for your crew on, excuse me, for your crew on something like an Orca, if there's 4 of you, does that mean like one of you's the pilot, one of you's the engineer, one of you's guns, and one of you's taking like trays of biscuits round to the passengers?
I think
Well, you're the entertainments manager. You should know.
Yeah, so the 4th crew member is putting on cabaret for the guests. It's like, and tonight,
I think
fresh from
in
her
terms
appearance
of
on
that-
Celebrity Big Brother.
In terms of their experimenting with roles, I do have to say, every time they say anything about multi-crew, I do sit there and think, yeah, you played Artemis at LaveCon. And you're all kind of going, how can we do something, and it's lovely, and and I think that's great, and and actually I think they'll come up with something incredible with this, because I have every faith in the brains that are in that room and that do that coding, because Mike and Sandy are awesome, and so are the others. But yeah, determining what crew roles do, what variation you can have, and doing it for a long-term game rather than maybe just a scenario game is a tricky biscuit. Really, really difficult thing to try and get right. And they're going to take the time over it. It's cool. It will be interesting to see how that pans out. I think once you start walking around inside ships, and you have to have security officers and stuff, then that crew role might change, mightn't it? You may need something else.
Yeah, well, we'll just quickly crack through the rest of these. I think here's a quick one. If we have room for it, will ships be able to store more than one fighter? The answer was a quick yes. Will NPC wingmen be available to hire before season 3? And we got a hopefully. I don't know whether or not that's any better than soon. Going back to your question about the Alliance, someone asked, when can we expect to get Alliance ranks and ships? To which Sandy said, don't know, but I do want it. So, so there does seem to be quite a lot of, oh, yes, we've still got to get to this bit. We need to get our first bit out of the way first before we can concentrate on other things. And then 2 very important questions came out, I thought. The first one was, does planet temperature affect ship heat levels? Which I thought was quite intelligent, because if you land your Cobra on Mercury, surely you're going to have a heat affecting your ship's systems. And then the other one...
And what about atmosphere affecting them? You land on Venus, you get boiled. And various other nastiness that Venus has in its atmosphere.
Colin, you left such a large pause there. Ben and I just sort of... Didn't we? We leapt off the cliff, and then
we jumped in there.
You jumped.
It was a long drop on the cliff, but we did kind of. I thought Ben Ryder came up with I thought it was a very clever quip when someone asked that question about temperature, and Sandy went, "Oh, I don't know." Ben said, "Oh, no, delayed for another week while they have to implement," which I thought was funny.
Yeah, but the one that I think a lot of our listeners, especially if you're a Hutton trucker, will there be an option to select which star in multi-star systems to jump into? Now, Sandy doesn't know, but he says he wants it. Now that, I'm afraid to say, will disappoint so many of the masochists that do the Hutton run.
It's not going to disappoint them.
It will. It'll take all the fun out of it, all that boredom.
It's the Desert Bus crowd. Damn it. For those of you that never played Desert Bus, then go do a run to Hutton Orbital. I don't believe that the ship kind of leans or lists to the left in quite the same way, but and I don't think you get the same. There is something of an achievement going to Hutton Orbital. I don't think that there is quite the same validation you get with Desert Bus when you get to the end and it gives you 1 point.
Yeah. What I would like to see, though...
I'm quite affectionate about the flight to Hutton Orbital now. I think before Grant and other people sort of organised that got behind that community goal. I think I took one mission that took me to Hutton Orbital, and I got frustrated that the length of time the mission gave you wasn't long enough to fly to Hutton Orbital. And then now I've kind of been part of the whole kind of Hutton Orbital truckers thing. I'm actually quite, every now and again I sort of think, oh, should I fly to Hutton? I quite fancy it. I've got some radio to catch up on.
I think that's great. I'm not really poking at that. I think it's great. I think that the issue of flying to systems with multiple stars and having different jump locations, there's two sides in that. Yes, there is the gameplay element. There's also the fiction element. Wouldn't it be better, particularly if you think of the expansion of it, not just going to different stars, but if you think of the expansion of it, if you had a system where you're trying to get into that system without being detected, and you've got to go somewhere and photograph something, or you've got to go somewhere and do something covert, if you can enter that system at multiple jump points, that's going to make it easier for you to be able to do that. Maybe there's an upgrade, maybe there's a device in your ship that you can buy that allows you to then, recalculate your jump point to something slightly different. But if they do that rather than going to different stars, then actually what you're doing is enhancing the gameplay a little bit more, and you're not necessarily getting rid of the truck run.
I'd like to take that and again expand upon it. That sure, you can take your advanced jump drive or whatever, and that'll let you jump wherever. But you have to have visited there yourself before. So if you're wanting to jump, for example, straight to Eden, you have to have actually gotten yourself to Eden in the old-fashioned way first before you can even think about jumping straight there.
Are you thinking about something like coordinates? Yeah, or basically deploying portable nav buoys?
Maybe something like that.
Sorry, boys.
Just
boys,
locking.
I suddenly
you did go American.
Sorry. Why did I do that? Sorry.
I don't know if I'd do a nav buoy, but I'd have some way of basically locking those spatial coordinates or whatever the heck into your system, and you've got really good. I have been here, I know exactly where this is in the galaxy, and I can get back here. However that is stored or whatever.
Well, you could make that temporary as well. You could make it a certain amount of shots because, of course, the relative, with things moving.
It changes, yeah.
Yeah, it might change. I don't know. There's lots of sort of bits and pieces around that, aren't there?
Mm-hmm.
Just to pick up something that Stephen Usher has said. Again, he said Sandy wants lots of things that still haven't appeared. He said in the Twitch chat. I think, and I'm not defending Sandy in relation to this because I think Sandy's a big enough boy to be able to defend himself. But the one thing that you do note, and Michael Brooks has said this as well, that the development list is getting longer and longer because there's lots of likes and wants and must-haves. I think the one thing you do notice is that they're trying to implement as many things as they can, and you get a sense of that kind of honesty about this whole process, whereby when they are implementing them, and when they haven't implemented them, they're actually then saying to you, yeah, we do that, but, there's a long way to go, and we're not sure we're going to get there because, they're being very honest relating to that problem. You know what I mean? They're as much fans as us, and you can kind of see that in the way in which, or you can hear it in the way in which it's talked about. And I think actually that kind of gives you a little bit of a, okay, we're happy to be there with you, and we're really looking forward to when that comes in. It gives me that feeling. In terms of the way in which they talk about implementing additional stuff. I still think the Orca is just ridiculous in terms of the fact that it was put in the game and then we still don't have anything that it's, despite the fact that the passenger missions were such a talked about thing, I still think that's funny. But, at the end of the day, they're making the decisions and we can only, and then, okay, what you decide, great, okay, we'll support that.
Yeah, I must admit, I think they've definitely learned their lessons from the old offline gate and a couple of other things that have happened, and now they're being a lot more upfront. And I think they've learned the lesson that if something is going to be disappointing or everybody is there's going to be a delay in it, they're upfront with it straight away and say, right, we know that you guys want this, we've got it in the to-do list, but we can't put it in yet because we're too busy doing the planetary lands and sort of the horizon
Yeah,
stuff.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of the coalface elements of of the gritty and what have you of getting the game out. I think fair play to them in terms of what they're doing. Um, I I think there are things whereby you ask for more help. I think there are people who could help them more in the community. I think they still struggle. This isn't necessarily individuals. I think Frontier as a company still struggle a bit with trust at times. As I say, I think that's not necessarily, some of the people that we're obviously discussing at the moment and are dealing with at the moment in relation to this. But yeah, I fair play to them in terms of what they've managed to achieve so far and how they're managing to put it forwards.
Well, I mean, obviously the whole 1.5 thing wasn't the only big stream that we've had since Lave Radio was last broadcasting. We've had Mr. Braben himself on. And unfortunately, I think we're going to run out of time before we can go through this in great detail. I think the highlights of most of those things that Mr. Braben was on about has been covered. There's a lot of stuff that we've gone over with the Lacon 6 and the Keelback and a lot of the SRVs. I think we've discussed quite a lot. But one of the things that was dropped, much to everybody's surprise, is someone asked whether there's non-Thargoid species out there, to which the answer was a definite yes. Now that's a good bit of speculation right there. We always thought it was just
we know this
us.
is because David Braben is obsessed with hunting. Every time he talks about going to planets, he talks about going and hunting big game. So there's obviously going to have to be big game in atmospheric planets. Maybe that's why it's only airless planets first. Maybe that's another reason that they haven't got living creatures right yet. So they're sticking with vacuum, so that they don't have to worry too much about badly animated six-legged horses or something.
Yeah. I mean, just to quickly touch on it, I mean, the latest SRV footage with them assaulting the base and them approaching, driving round and through a base, I mean, and that particular piece really got over the scale of the ships that were flying. I mean, that actually surprised me that the Cobra, and especially the Cobra, is the equivalent of flying a 747. And when you actually see the size of a corvette, that's the size of an aircraft carrier. Did anyone else just suddenly feel very, very small when you saw how big these ships were?
I'm not totally sure about those size comparisons. I think, having seen the sort of size of the cockpit and the size of the seat in it, I think to say that a Cobra is the size of a 747 might be slightly underestimating the size of a 747. I could be wrong, though.
No,
There's a video that actually shows it.
Yeah, you're quite right. It's not a 747. It's a lot bigger than a Tomcat, though.
Oh, yeah.
And a 747, I think that's about the size of an Asp.
Yeah, I'm still trying to find this video for you. I did play it on Sunday, and now I can't find it. Where was it? SRV. Was it Horizons Inside the SRV, or was it first SRV Combat? Was it part of that? Or was it part of the David Q&A?
Yeah, I think it was part of the David Q&A.
But one of the other YouTube thing is still at the place where I was looking at it the other day, so I can go straight into it, which is handy.
No, one of the things that was always extremely interesting to hear was that it sounds like the guns that are protecting some of these bases, he says they're strong enough to take out corvettes. Does that make anybody scared approaching one of these bases in future?
Well, we know that they're capital ship guns, and they hurt.
It won't make any difference to me because I'm never going to own a Corvette. So they're all. Everybody can take me out. You know, I'm flying around in a Cobra, so you know. I guess how fast they managed to take me out. Actually, no, almost everybody can take me out. I believe one Colin Ford's never taken me out. So you know.
We've never yet met at CQC.
No, this is true, but we did meet an alpha, and I believe it's 2-0 to me.
Actually, no, it was 4-1 to you.
Oh, okay, all right then.
So
I'll take that.
no, it's just I don't want to have the nil. I just don't want to have the nil. But moving on from the, I mean, was there any thoughts on the Q&A session? I mean, I thought so far that was probably the best Q&A session that Ed's done. So you've got to give him a round of applause for that. I mean,
I mean the David Braben one or the Sandy one?
The David Braben one, I thought. I mean, the Sandy one was good.
He did a great job at it.
Yeah. I thought the way that it was actually really smoothly run. The questions came out, and it seemed nice and relaxed, and there wasn't any angriness from the community. I think the best way to describe it was. So, moving on, we've only got 10 minutes left. So we'll just quickly mention the other things that have been happening. We had a Meet the Team with Adams Woods. I mean, that was a nice quick read, and it's good to see that Adam is still at the coal face and helping moving the project along in his own unique style. Nice comment about Crash. FDev apparently didn't get back to him about the fundraising goal for his own bobblehead, to which Frontier Developments have replied, Crash, we could have done, but I don't think we've been able to fit your head in any of the ships if you got one. So, so anybody who's wanting a Crash bobblehead, I'm afraid to say it looks like it's not going to happen, unless the fish that Sandy was wearing instead of his his usual eye-stripping shirts was known as a loach, a bottom feeder fish, and that was on his shoulder for anybody who's interested in those kind of things. As far as other things in the community, we've had the Hutton truckers are now available for perusal on the community website. We've had an interview with the guys that have started off the whole Hutton run, which we know Mr. Cycle Cow is one of them, along with Dave Pearson and Mr. Mike Snoswell. And they presented Frontier with the original Hutton mug in a glass case this week. Which was it true that it had a smashed code mug underneath?
That is very true.
Ah, well, yes, that's good to know. In other news, it seems Commander Kaptab, who was having brain surgery, is on his way for a good recovery, and that was nice to read about. And we've had the winner announced of the Name the Station competition, which was Obsidian Orbital. Now, there's been a little bit of grumpiness about this, but I think the...
Grumpiness from the elite community. Surely something has happened that nobody has complained about at all.
Ooh, well, apparently it's immersion breaking.
Is it?
Sigh. It so isn't.
Why?
Get over it.
No, I mean, I think it's fine, and to be honest,
Yeah.
I think it's a well-deserved win. To be honest, in my humble opinion.
Well, you know, at the end of the day, let's be grateful for the fact that we're talking about grumpiness, not flaming. Generally speaking, when anybody is a little bit critical or a little bit negative about something that's there, for the most part, they tend to be polite. Although I'm sure that several moderators of the forums could probably point me in the direction of stuff where they aren't. But at least in this, you know, it's okay, done. You know.
Okay. And we've had a few a few questions from Commander Ariathoth UK on the on Reddit. I think we've actually covered some of these. One of the things that he's asking for is whether or not you should have your friends icon available in the system map. I think we covered something similar to this last week, where we were trying to work out, we'd come up with ways where you could track friends or bounty hunting targets who are player characters or player ships, so to speak. We've also had, he was talking about the fact that it seems that a lot of the new ships seem to be variants. I think we covered that quite extensively tonight. And there is one thing that he did point out, and it says, having revealed that LaveCon takes about a month to go to conception to launch, what do you think the reason is behind Frontier's decision to hold back some of the previous mooted ships? Dolphin, Berguna Liner, well, obviously waiting for passengers, but he's a little confused about the Panther Clipper.
Yeah, no, that is confusing because we've had a lot of concept art related to it. I think it's more a case that they're putting forward the ships that that push the factions, as it were, because I think the Panther, because it's neutral, and also, what does it do that the Anaconda doesn't do? I mean, there's that's not me dissing the Panther, by the way. I want the Panther in the game, but the point being is that trying to find its role, I guess, is probably something that's there because we know they've already got the concept design. As I'm watching Chris's Twitch stream, I've got somebody is trying, I think, to dock a Sidewinder into an Anaconda, and then I think there is a.
That's actually me, Alan.
Okay, there's an asp.
That's me.
There's an asp attempting to mate with them both.
Yeah, and somehow the asp has just managed to fly through the hull of the Anaconda.
Yeah.
Which I've not seen before.
No.
Thankfully, I caught it on video, so we can hand it in as a bug report and say, what caused this?
To go back to the Clipper, I mean, they did talk about the Panther Clipper as sort of being it was a Panther LX or something it was called, if I remember rightly, and it suggested that it actually had initially it had lighter shields or lighter armor than some of the other ships of that size, if I remember rightly. This was a long time ago, so maybe that is still because I saw the Diamondback. The original ideas for the Diamondback were quite a while ago before we got the eventual version, which looks nothing like the original version. Maybe there's still some thinking around the specific parameters that the ship is fulfilling and how it's going to work. You may well see it's a season 2 thing.
Yeah, I mean, I was under the impression that they were filling out all the holes in the progression, and then once they'd done that for season 2, then you'd start seeing more bigger ships like the Panther Clipper for people to move to.
Agreed.
Okay, Ben and Chris, would you like to give the in-game commanders a shout-out who have joined you outside Lave Station?
I can certainly try. I think I've got my my scanner is hopefully up to date, unless that Type 7 is a player that's just appeared to me. So no, it's an NPC. So we are joined outside Lave Station by Commander Windwipe, Commander Retmark, Commander Dissington, Commander Upperbottom, Commander Caretaker, Commander Jean Bello, Commander Hawkus Alpha, Commander Edelweiss, and that's it. So apologies if I can't see you.
And of course, you're Commander Thane.
I am Commander Thane. Thank you very much. And just a little shout out for the Escape Velocity Patreon. If anybody would still like to support that, that's at patreon.com/Radio Theatre Workshop. And just to clarify, I am not patreon.com/Escape Velocity or patreon.com/Chris Jarvis. Those are different people. You are looking for patreon.com/Radio Theatre Workshop, and I look forward to anybody who would like to join us there. That'd be great.
Okay. Well, I think I'm afraid to say I'm going to have to call it. So, That's it for another episode of Lave Radio. If you'd like to get in touch with the show, then you can email info@laveradio.com, Facebook/Lave Radio, @Lave Radio on Twitter. You can join the Skype chat channel by adding Fozzo101 to your Skype contacts, or you can join our TeamSpeak server where commanders normally hang out and chat on laveradio.teamspeak3.com. Lave Radio is recorded on a Tuesday evening at 8:30 and is streamed out on laveradio.com/live. Thanks to Ben, thanks to Alan, and thanks to Chris, and thanks to those commanders who joined us outside Lave Station.
And one more thing.
Oh, and one more thing. Go on then.
As Watchy has just said in the Twitch TV channel, do remember the Chaos Reborn Kickstarter. Not that this is a Chaos Reborn podcast. It's a Lave Radio podcast.
What you mean? we can't mention Chaos Reborn?
No.
No.
Apparently, some people think that that means we're about some kind of different game.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 so far. Any more?
I don't want to interrupt, but the Chaos Reborn Quickstarter, we have hit kind of what we're expecting to be the sort of mid. The mid kind of project lull. Hopefully that's what this is. We are funded for one episode of Chaos Reborn. Basically, for people who like Escape Velocity and like what we do with it in terms of it being an elite inspired audio drama. We also have the Chaos Reborn audio drama, which is a similar sort of thing, but based on a completely different game. Chaos Reborn, as someone said in Twitch, what is this Chaos Reborn? It's a fantasy world where wizards fight each other with magic for, I guess, control of the shattered remains of the earth. It is a fantasy world with everything you could want. It's got skeletons that move around, it's got dwarves, it's got dragons, it's got magical creatures, and it's incredible. It's made by Julian Gollop, who did the original UFO. And it's an incredible game. We're hoping it's going to be an incredible audio drama. As I say, we are funded for one episode, but it would make it even more awesome if we could get up to our stretch goals and get funded for 2, 3, or even 4 episodes. So that's tinyurl.com/chaos audio, and there's a whole load of really cool stuff there. And as I say, if you like our work on Escape Velocity, hopefully you'll really like what we do with Chaos Reborn. And if you haven't played the game, there are Chaos Reborn related Chaos Reborn. No, sorry, I'm not trying to feed the drinking game. There are Chaos Reborn game licenses which are available as a kind of double whammy bundle with the audio itself. So do get over to that Kickstarter, tinyurl.com/chaos audio, and again, really appreciate your support for that. It's hopefully it's going to be a fantastic project. Chaos Reborn.
Well. On those final notes, and let me just say this, we do wish to pass on our apologies to anybody who knows Simon who's probably died of alcoholic poisoning at this point. So, until next time, fly safe. And if you can't do that, fly dangerous.
That's your cue.
Is your life like this?
Sounds like someone having an orange inserted. Need a safe word.
Space can be done.
I'm gonna see the galaxy.
guys. Hold the fort for 2 seconds. I'll be right back.